This is a work session for the City Council for the City of Trinidad. After the work session, we will have a special meeting with an executive session, and as always, there would be no votes after the executive session. The following items are on file for consideration of City Council. Item number 1, Oslo Property Trail Development.
So, Mayor Council, I have Jared here today. Come on up, Jared. So we've been talking with a company called Six Pack Outdoor, and so we have representatives today that I'll let Jared introduce you to. But these are the groups that have been developing trails in Palo Duro Canyon in the Panhandle. And so they're legitimate, and they're here to talk to you about, we can vouch for them, but they're here to talk to you about some plans we thought we could begin working on for the Oslo property. So I'll turn it over to Jared, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Steve. Mayor, members of council, just to go echo off of what City Manager said, this is Chris. You can go ahead and, his last name is, I'll let him say his last name, so I'll probably butcher it.
So, come on up, Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris Podzimny, Podzeny, Podzimny, just like it's spelled.
And he's with Six Pack Outdoors, and we've been working with him and his company to develop multi-use trails on the Osla. And as we have talked about, if you have another suggested name for that property, we are open to suggestions. So just throw that out there for your information. But I will turn the time over to Chris and let him explain the project.
Hello everyone. Thank you for seeing me today. Chris Podzimny, Six Pack Outdoors Inc. We are a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Amarillo, Texas. Our mission is to promote outdoor recreation, primarily through the creation of multi-use trail systems. We have built and maintained trail systems primarily in the Panhandle of Texas for federal, state, municipal, and private entities. Of the approximately 180 miles of multi-use trails in the Panhandle of Texas, we've built and maintained about 3/4, 120 miles of that. In addition to trail construction and maintenance, we put on a series of cycling events. That's where the Six Pack Outdoors comes from, because we were originally the Six Pack Outdoors series. We had 6 events, 3 in the spring, 3 in the fall, but now we do many more events than that. And we use those events to generate revenue to help us build and maintain many of the trails. So some of the events you may have heard of, one of our marquee events is the Bermejo Charcoal Burner at the Bermejo Ranch in New Mexico. So we're not just in the Panhandle of Texas. Most of our activities occur there, but we've built and maintained trails in New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and of course the Panhandle, to include Palo Duro Canyon State Park. I have a long history with Trinidad and the region. I've grown up with, if not in, Trinidad. My grandparents bought a 1A and 2A maple in Coconut, Colorado, the year I was born. So I've spent a lot of time in this community. I love this community. I believe in it. I think that Trinidad, Colorado has everything it needs to be a true recreation destination, with the exception of trails. I mean, there are some trails here in this community. We have the Wormhole Loop, you've got Trinidad Lake State Park, and of course, the very excellent Fisher State Park. I've ridden all the trails around here and have for many years. I've participated in most of the cycling events that happen here. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in this community and the viability of this project I'm here to talk to you about today. So, Jared, I forget what you said y'all were calling this property.
Right now it's called the Osula property, but it's open for suggestions.
So in my mindset, I've been calling this the La Visa Canyon Trail project, just because that's the main feature of going through the middle of the property. Oh, sorry, we disappeared here. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to log back in here real quick.
And just real quick question, anybody in the audience that wants to see the screen, you're welcome to come over here.
Okay, so this is all rough estimates on the boundaries of the property, but I've been there. I've spent a lot of the last month exploring and laying out a recommended trail system on the property. We're essentially about 260 acres, and I have laid out essentially 3 main trails with 1 beginner loop kind of right here on the north end of the property. You can see where I'm pointing there.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Chris?
Yes, absolutely.
There you go, thank you.
So, and I have a couple of black squares here. Obviously, we're going to need people utilizing the property, place to park. So I've got a couple of recommended areas in black. In total, including the road that is in white, these are the utility service roads, essentially, the ranch roads running through the property. My proposal has approximately 12 miles of trail. Again, 2.5 miles of that is just the service road, but can second as a wider trail network. I would certainly recommend preventing access beyond this point for public use on that road, but we would utilize that as a trail as well in my proposal. The one thing I feel like this community is lacking as far as trails is concerned are easy trails. I enjoy the wormhole. I grew up, I've been riding Riley Canyon and South Shore Trail since the late 90s. That was my go-to place when I'd come up and visit my grandparents in Cokedale. It was just right down the road. I'd hop on Riley Canyon and do laps back and forth. There is been mentioning Riley Canyon, there's the potential of connecting to the state park. There are already access points. Of course, this would require cooperation with the state park. To back up a little bit, I've been doing trails full-time for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was in state and municipal government. I worked for the state of Texas for the previous 10 years, and before that, City of Amarillo. So I'm used to coordinating between agencies. And that's really helped me develop the various trail systems across the region that I work in. So that's, beside the point, but an option for in the future.
Chris, do you want to just kind of zoom in and maybe just leave it?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Nervous clicking here. My bad. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see kind of everything. On the style of trails that Six Pack builds, we're not into downhill. We're not into, kind of jump type trails. We're into multi-use trails. We're all about connecting our communities and providing opportunities for all skill ranges of hikers and bikers to use these trails. So that means we like building easier trails. On a scale, if we're going to match the ski run type scale, we got green, blue, and black. Well, we're into the green and the blue trails. I don't build jumps. I like keeping the rubber side down. I like keep my wheels on the ground. This is for a safety and liability issue also. I don't want people going out and getting hurt on the trails that we construct. So we kind of try to limit the liability on these by making our trail corridors wide enough and clear of vegetation and smooth enough that even young children can ride the majority of them. There are challenges with this particular property because there is a considerable amount of elevation change. We're going in and out of canyons. So again, I've spent the last month reconning the property, specifically on this north side. With my time constraints and our other projects, this is essentially a 2-year project. We can do approximately a mile a month of the trails that we're talking about. And we do machine-built trails. So this makes for a more sustainable trail bed, one that's easier to maintain because it's a little bit wider. At least the trail bed is. Our expectation is within a year or two, the vegetation is going to grow back in to create a single track trail. And that will all be largely dependent on the use of the trail. The more use of the trail, the wider it's going to be. But by using machinery to cut in our trails, we're making a nice 4-foot wide trail bed that is then easier for us to maintain and to get our equipment on. Okay. So again, I mentioned that we also put on events here. So our primary interest right at this point is just to get a trail system built, but we want a trail system that we would then be able to use to put on events in this community. We put on mountain bike, running, and gravel events. Right now, there's not really a mountain bike event-friendly property here that we can utilize. This is the type of property we like doing 6 to 8 mile loops that are NICA friendly, like the high school, middle school cycling leagues. Colorado has their own middle school, high school mountain bike series, and their events generally draw between 800 and 1,200 people, high school students and their parents. That's the type of venue we like to operate in. We don't put on those high school events, but we would assume that y'all would have the option to provide that for those type of organizations. We're not the only ones that would want to put on events here, I'm assuming. So running organizations, other cycling events, we would be happy with that. So,
Chris, can you talk about your thoughts on parking off of Highway 12?
Okay, so parking-wise, our entrance is right here at the top of the hill before you make the little dip into Cokedale. Mm-hmm. All right. Right at the entrance, there's room for 10 to 15 vehicles. Now, day-to-day use, that's probably ample. On our events, most of our mountain bike events are fairly small grassroots events where we have between 80 and 120 people. There is additional space on the property down the road about a quarter mile where I had this black trapezoid where you could do like probably another 20 vehicles. And then in this area just to the east of it, it's nice and broad and open. There are some trees and shrubs in here, but that area could be cleared out and easily accommodate, probably 80 to 100 vehicles right there, if it came to that. One of the options that we're exploring is utilizing the state park area, if they would be game for hosting one of our events and allowing us to tie into this trail system. Those are just some of the thoughts that have been bouncing around our heads here. So really we would hope to have at least half of this project done this year to enable us to have an event by next summer.
And Mayor Council, one of the things that Jared and Chris and I talked about is certainly mountain bike, what an opportunity up there, but we don't want to limit it to just that. Chris kind of alluded to having multi-use pathways and everything, but this would just be step one for mountain biking. But we certainly don't want to not be mindful of our hikers and other uses that we can have up there.
And to expand on that, I would say that our trails are generally mountain bike optimized. Okay, so they're a little wider, they're a little more flowy. We certainly, sorry, we got some pop-ups going on here. That's one of our concerns, but really our entity, Six Pack Outdoors, is about providing opportunities for local communities. And generally speaking, especially since we're in the Panhandle, smaller communities. A lot of the large cities have many, many miles of trail already. And so we don't want to leave smaller communities like Trinidad out of that. I mean, every time I come up here, I just see hundreds, if not thousands, of vehicles every day driving through town with bikes on them. And we would like to see a lot of that traffic stop here. Obviously, a lot of them are coming from our Texas communities anyhow, and many of them are driving up to Buena Vista and Salida. And I think this community has all the gifts that they do, minus a little bit of water. But from a hiking, outdoor recreation, the opportunities are abundant here. We've got great history. You got a beautiful downtown that is growing in my eyes every year, and we just want to be a part of that.
Very good.
Do you have any questions?
Start with Miss Erin.
I want to ask the city manager, could you give us kind of a history of this, of where we are? I understand we bought the property. Have we allocated funds for its development?
Yes, we have a pot of money that the council's previously authorized for the development of the property itself. And so we have been listening to you all, and then also we have our own thoughts on this. We didn't want to just buy the property and sit on it for 10 years. So this kind of came to fruition. We've gone through proper procurement on this and have selected Six Pack to consult with us. But yes, there is a pot of money that would more than cover what this proposal is, and then some expansion thereafter.
Would it cover the parking lot development as well, or just the trails?
I believe it would cover the parking lot. So council has allocated about $250,000 for development up there. We can talk specific numbers, but their proposal comes nowhere near that. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, would include the parking.
To a certain extent, we don't do paved parking.
Yeah.
I mean, there are limited options that we have. We can certainly clear and kind of level some areas off to provide a limited number of parking, but when it comes to parking for 80 to 100 vehicles, that's outside our scope of work.
And we probably, sorry to interrupt, but Mayor Council, just my thoughts, we probably wouldn't want to pave parking up there. I think just a nice graded lot with some crusher fines would suffice and keep it as natural as possible.
And the last questions that I have to do with, I see yellow, I see red, purple. Are all those trails that you're thinking you could construct?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything in the screen here has already been flagged. I've been up there working diligently for the last month because I can show you lines on the map, but I wanted to make sure they accurately represented what I'm proposing here. So basically we have 4 trails. One is just a beginner loop. This is flat, it's easy. Young children will be able to handle this no problem. This is about a half-mile loop and would provide access from all the parking areas. Now, the other 3 trails go basically from north to south along the property. The yellow and the red trail would be blue-green trails, so kind of an intermediate trail. The blue trail over here would be the most technically challenging trail, but still just a blue trail on a skills level. There's nothing on here that would require expert level skills for a cyclist to be able to ride.
Do you have any idea the number of miles we're creating?
So the blue, yellow, red, and purple trails, that's about 10 miles of trail. The white line is the service road. In the case that we host events, we would utilize some of those as trails also, but those are basically just the service roads. Steve, you and I and Jared discussed the cabin.
Yeah.
So we went and looked at that. So we could see how to manage that with the trail construction. And the cabin is already partially collapsed. It's not long for this world. The rest of the walls are ready to fall in. Really, this would be on the second year of the project when we started cutting these trails in. If it's still standing at that point, my recommendation would be just to collapse the rest of the structure. Now, right beside the cabin, this little circle right here, is a well. It's a hand-dug well, it's stone lined. I would recommend preserving that. It makes it for a very interesting
Feature.
Pardon me?
Feature.
Feature. Well, there's another word for cultural, cultural asset that's worth preserving. It would need a small fence around that we could easily incorporate. It's already kind of covered up, but yeah, again, provides some liability there, when people getting right up into the well. But it is an interesting feature. That's the only real significant cultural resource that I've found during my exploration of the property. Again, I haven't gone much south of the wide area. These lines are what I haven't ground truthed this portion of the project yet. It's taken 4 weeks just to do the northern portion. This is approximately 6 miles on the north half.
I love the idea that there would be an easy route, because then I wouldn't be intimidated to do that.
Absolutely.
That would be great, but it is beautiful land, I'm sure you agree.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for coming in today. I'm sure when we name this, it'll be simpler than your last name. I was gonna ask you, the trails and the switchbacks are pretty much predicated on terrain and elevation, right?
Correct.
So did you, in your assessment of the property, did you find out any problematic areas? I mean, you use transits to shoot grade, right? Just like you do, or how do you do that?
So I start with the map. I've spent many hours poring over the topographic maps of the area. See if I can find this for you real quick. And then after this portion of it is the ground truth, and that's a two-man job. I brought my business partner Jeff Hall and my son Luke up here to assist me in marking the course, and we use what is called the clinometer, which is like a handheld instrument that you can shoot your grading with. It's not like a survey level instrument.
That's a picture. I took a picture of the cabin when I went, so everybody can look at it.
So that's probably the most important tool we have. Certainly on a project like this, we don't have time to go out there and resurvey the whole property with the laser levels and everything. But the clinometer gives us a good rough scale. We never try to exceed more than a 10% grade. And if we even approach 10% grade, we make sure that there is a grade change. We build what is called rolling contour trail. So we're following the contour lines on the map. We're not trying to go perpendicular to them, because that means you're going straight up and down the hill. We never want to go straight up and down this trail because we're very concerned about sustainability. The steeper your grade is, the more maintenance that you're going to have on it. So that's why there are so many switchbacks. We're trying to reduce the grade you know, we really don't want more than a third, 3 or 4% for long periods of time. Again, that gets back to, you know, we want children and old people to be able to come out and enjoy the trail also. This isn't for, you know, I'm not here for the young downhill bros, okay? I'm here for everybody else. There are plenty of steep, chunky, poorly maintained trails all over the place. I want something that's going to be here for many years that this community can partake of, and people from outside the community come in and support this area as well.
So the 4 levels, 4 grades, or the 4 trails that you're talking about,
Yes.
you grade them just like skiing? Like 1, 2, 3, easier to mediate to intermediate to...
Green, blue, and black. But we're not going to have any blacks. We may have some, you know, some blues, solid blues, which would take a fairly skilled individual to be able to ride all of it without putting a foot down. You don't want to, you know, we kind of grade this by how many times you have to put your foot down when going up a turn or a climb. And we try to limit that as much as possible.
You mentioned to take care of the trails and maintain them. How is that going to work with us to maintain them with trash and keeping them updated and stuff?
So,
kind of an extension of contract you have with that.
Really, each property varies that we work with. Some of our municipal parks, the municipalities take care of them. We do maintenance on just about all of the trail systems that we've built. Generally, we are on a rotation, and that's based on the events. Almost all of our trail systems, we put on an annual event there. It's amazing what one day of high traffic does to kind of polish the trail for the year. So before we have an event, we usually spend 2 or 3 weeks prior to that event to clean up the specific trail system. So that's kind of a limited amount of maintenance. That's just 2 or 3 weekends out of the year, and we bring in volunteers. Long term, we have sponsorship agreements with most of our municipal trail systems. And take the city of Borger, for example, we have a budget with them of about $5,000 a year that allows us to go in and replace bridges or maintain bridges, to get our equipment to that community, and you know, all of our mowers, our mini excavators, our mini dozers, they all run on dollar bills. So the more funds we have for that, the more maintenance we can do. So, but really I see that a couple of years away from needing any kind of maintenance contract on this, because we're going to be here for the next 2 years. Granted, y'all approve our proposal.
And Mayor, Councilmember Shu, I'm glad you asked that question. I would envision us having trash cans that are regularly serviced at the parking lot, and then signage. It is Colorado, so you know, pack it in, pack it out, that type of thing. And hopefully, we won't see a lot of trash on the trail. But if that does happen, I think it's important, to your point, that we make sure we're out there and picking that up. So we'll look into a good solution for that too.
And there are volunteer organizations. We have the Trinidad Trail Alliance and some other ones who would be happy, maybe not at the level of maintenance that may be required on certain things, but the general trash pickup, maybe maintaining the corridor a little bit, pruning some things, is definitely something within their purview and something that they've expressed they would like to be a part of, just to help the community.
And one thing we haven't talked about yet is whether or not we want to install pit toilets or anything like that, but we'll definitely look into all of those things.
So these are all issues that we've addressed at our other parks. Generally, it takes about 3 years for a trail system to become really established, for the knowledge of the trail system to get out there. We're pretty proficient in our social media and advertising our trail systems. But initially, it's not going to have just a massive amount of traffic on it. You know, certainly the locals will find it almost immediately. We're going to want them. We're going to. We've already approached. Help. I'm not going to be up here building this by myself. We're going to be hiring locally to assist me. The majority of the work I'm going to be doing is the machine operation. But then we're going to bring our volunteer groups from Amarillo and surrounding areas to come up and help, and our friends and volunteers that we already have in this community to assist us. Okay.
Man, do you have any quick, are you finished?
Yeah.
That's just good. For Jared, it's just a question on this one. Like, so accessibility, like, is there gates? Who takes care of that?
Currently, right now, it is gated. It isn't locked just for him. As things start to get a little more further on, we will lock that gate, and those who need access will have access. There'll be obviously a key kept here at City Hall. He'll have a key. We'll probably have a key. In the future, what probably we'll have is some sort of turnstile, so that gate will be locked all the time, so there can be no vehicle traffic. But a biker who wants to can access, you know, going over either a step over or some sort of thing where they can get onto the trail without actually having to drive past where we decide the parking areas are going to be. So we don't have people tooling around there doing whatever.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I know you talked about bathrooms and there's a well and maybe a cabin. Is there power on that property at all, or would you be installing power with parking and all that, or how does that work?
We wouldn't be installing power. That would be, in our vision, that would be up to the city to provide. We would very much approve of and recommend power. Certainly, when it comes to putting on events, having access to power is very beneficial, but we also bring our own generators for our timing systems and everything.
There's there's power that goes along Highway 12 and such that we could obviously tap into. Initially, I think having power and lighting is probably a phase down the road.
Now, on the toilet thing, portables would be highly recommended. Otherwise, people are just going to go beside the trail, on the trail. So I would recommend a couple of portables at the trailhead, like the parking area.
Is that it?
Yes.
And Councilmember Thurman, just a question for you. So on power, are you looking for lighting the parking lot?
Well, just power in general. Electric, it could be, I'm assuming they're gonna have parking, it would be some kind of light system, or a bathroom, there would be some kind of power, but, you know.
Okay.
Like he said, later on down the line, they might have, outlets and lights and stuff.
So you gotta respect anybody that does laps on Riley Canyon. That's a lot. So I'm obviously excited about this project. I mean, I've said this before multiple times, but if you see a Subaru sitting in Safeway and you have 3 Scalpel on it, Cannondale Scalpel, you have more dollars in mountain bikes than you do car there, even a nice Subaru. But these people can bring dollars to Trinidad, and I think, I'd really like to see that happen. So we should take the steps necessary to get there, but I think that it's critically important, all of us, it's critically important that we build something that we maintain and doesn't become run down, not something that any of us would be proud to say, hey, that belongs to the city of Trinidad. Because when we talked about trash cans, you can go to the Riverwalk today, and I'm pretty certain we're going to find a trash can overflowing. I'm not trying to be the wet blanket on the party. I just want to make sure that we install something nice and that it continues to be something nice. I'm sure all of us feel that way. I did have a question, and I don't know who's best to answer it, but if we have access off of Highway 12, what is the state's requirements, DOT requirements, for continuing and ongoing public access on and off a highway? what are they gonna require?
I think if it really is going to depend on the usage numbers. If you have 100 people coming in and out of there, eventually they are potentially going to request a turning lane.
Yeah.
At that point, it's a good spot for a turning lane. They're at the very top of the hill before you do the dip and then down to Cokerdale. So, but at the same time, it's the top of the hill, so you have vehicles coming up from both directions. Right now, if we're talking a couple of dozen people a day, I don't think they're going to require anything. But I don't know what the state of Colorado's requirements on that.
Jared, do you know that requirement?
I don't, but I think that would just be a conversation with CDOT and kind of get an understanding of the traffic study and what the volume would have to be. And we would definitely make those inquiries.
I am not 100% certain on this, but I believe that, I mean, if we're going to have continual and ongoing public access to a city-owned entity, I believe we're going to have acceleration, deceleration, turning lane from the get-go. That's my understanding, and that's a huge expense.
Absolutely.
I'm, you know, a lot of money. I mean, it's 500 plus. I'm pretty sure. So that's something we should have an answer to sooner rather than later. Then the other question I had, in Paladuro, how many of those miles were you, and you may have said it, but how many of those miles are you responsible for?
So there's half of it. Most of the old trails, were there when I started mountain biking in the mid-90s. So I've built a number of trails that are probably not going to mean much to you guys, but Comanche Trail, Rock Garden, Cottonwood, and Kiowa Trail were my 4 big contributions. I've helped maintain all of the trails for over 25 years, but okay. I personally built those.
Okay, thank you. Not counting parking, not counting any parking at all, how many trees do you think will have to be removed for trails?
That's hard to say. It would be a substantial amount in certain areas. We try to limit that as much as possible because that's just extra man hours for us. So wherever possible, we certainly limit the number of trees, and there's a certain size limit I'm not going to go past. Any large mature trees that are 40 years old or older, I'm not going to touch those things. And all the routes I laid out bypass those things. I like the shade also, right? So we have a certain methodology for our vegetation removal. So yes, I would say it's going to be in the hundreds of trees, but it's the smaller trees that are choking the space between the larger ones that we're shooting for. We're going to leave the mature trees away. We're thinning in between those areas, which has the side benefit of every one of these trails is like a little fire break. So can also be used, and especially in Borger. I don't know if y'all keep up with Panhandle news, but wildfires are a huge issue for us in the Panhandle. In Borger, we have a great relationship with their wildfire team, and they help us with our vegetation remediation in that city park because it's right in the heart of Borger, and it has helped save structures over the last few years. So, we're trying to protect those resources as well.
I think the last thing I wanted to say, and I mean, this is depending on what we find out from CDOT, but in my opinion, I think, I know I discussed it some, I think it would be better, in my opinion, to refrain from Highway 12 access and access it from the state park. I understand that would limit access to some degree, but I mean, people that are serious about mountain biking, and even recreationally serious, like you mentioned, you want to do the beginner trail, it doesn't take long to park at the parking where the shower structure is, ride Levsa Trail in, ride the Canyon, Levsa, and then you're basically there. So you could experience the beginner trails, whatever you want, and rely on pack in, pack out for a couple reasons. One, it gives the park some mystique and nostalgia, and you can attract people. Hey, have you ridden that city park that you have to go to the state park access for? It's kind of cool. You could use that for advertising. It limits us from having to spend the money for Highway 12 access, if that is the case. I don't know for sure. And then lastly, every bit of parking we put in, I think it just adds to the overall appearance of the unkept appearance, if you will, unless it's an actual delineated parking lot. Because I love to go up to a wormhole trail. It's really nice, but when you come to the parking lot, it's significantly underwhelming. I mean, it's hard to tell where the parking lot is ending, and it's blending in to the dead grasses, brown edges. It's just not a solid look, and I fear the larger parking we put in there, the more it lends to just a good crisp appearance. That's my input, but I think this has the potential to be really good for Trinidad. I think it just needs to be affected properly, and we can go from there. That was a lot of questions.
And Mayor, Council, if I may, Councilmember Williamson, we have had conversations with the folks at the Army Corps about their willingness to partner with us as an adjacent landowner. So far, not much interest,
Okay.
but we haven't had a specific question about whether they'd allow us access through their land. So I think that's a really good point. We'll look at options to have that as a feature as well. And also, Jared and I have talked about, we do need to hit up CDOT and have conversations about what the impact on Highway 12 would be. So we'll certainly have those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'd point out, if we've already had those conversations with Army Corps and the state park, and they weren't, super well received, I think it would have been important to find out the access question right away. And then secondly, it'd been a good idea if we had if we're relying on Highway 12, I mean, it's pretty straightforward to have the answer of what the requirements would be. I think that's going to be key to determining what we do going forward, but that's all the questions I have.
And Mayor, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, part of the idea of setting back the parking lot off of Highway 12 was because of access issues, is that correct?
The main concern was a suitable area.
Okay.
That was relatively flat and was not going to be overly expensive to create parking spots. I am also, in favor of smaller parking areas, more dispersed. I think right at the entrance we want to stop most of the traffic. I'm skeptical about the state park encouraging or allowing us access through their property and connecting initially. I think the Highway 12 access would be pretty crucial for this piece of property.
All righty, I'm next. Last but not least. Thank you, Chris.
Very well.
A lot of good information. When I heard the name of your company, I didn't know if you were talking about your abs or your choice of beverage.
Well, it's not bad.
I went straight to 6-pack of beer. That's the first thing that crossed my mind.
Well, it tied into our original mountain.
Okay.
There were, in our original awards
Wow,
were
I just
beer bottles.
I just like a little humor every now and then. Some of us on council had the opportunity to see the property in person. Most of us went up there, and the vistas are just amazing in that. And I think it's going to be worth our while, whatever we have to do to develop this. And I really appreciate your approach as far as kids I wish you would have put senior citizens in there too, because there's no way I could do the wormhole.
Right.
You know, but that, after seeing it in person, I think I could do that. And I think that's a segment of the community that's underserved, I really do, and I think this is gonna be it. I disagree with Aaron Williamson. I would prefer it to be as natural as possible. You know, maybe 10 years down the road, we might have to, if it's that popular, have to pave parking lots. But I want to keep it as, in my opinion, I'd like to keep it as natural as possible. And just for clarification, we only bought, for people out there that don't know the history of how the city got this, part of it was with the land trade, and the other part we bought, so it came at a pretty inexpensive price. But I think what you're talking about and the ideas you have are great. And as far as CDOT, I don't know, Aaron, do you think we could mention that at the TPR meeting?
We can certainly inquire, absolutely, yeah.
We're having a meeting with CDOT, a regional planning meeting on Thursday, so if it's all right with council.
From my understanding, public access off of a state controlled highway depends on what they call peak volume flow, peak traffic flow, I mean, and intended use. So I don't think we're going to meet the requirements for peak traffic flow, but we may on intended use. So,
okay. So additional, I mean, the project takes off and it becomes very popular. Of course, we're in Texas, so we're dealing with Texas Parks and Wildlife. But we just finished up a project on one of our City of Amarillo trail systems. It took about 4 years from when we received our grant, but we got a $250,000 grant for the parking. So those are additional funding options, I'm sure, that are available through the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Department that we can utilize. And you know, that's one of our funding sources on many of our municipal projects, is to go through the state. Of course, there are additional red tape to go through on that, and there's a reason it took almost 4 years for us to get our parking lot. But this isn't something that we would have to fund through one source as we phase the project.
On the naming, I have a suggestion. I think Parks and Rec Board should decide on who or how we name that. If you want to have a contest, Jennifer, or ask for suggestions. And
we brought that up at the last Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting last week, that they should spearhead the...
I think so too. Yeah.
Most of my trail systems, when we name them, I'm a huge history buff. You'll see all my little green arrows here. Alright, so all these are abandoned towns and cemeteries and little communities throughout the region. And I love history, and if you're gonna search out names, I would recommend putting some kind of historical context. I mean, there's certainly plenty of opportunities here for good historical names.
Do you have any suggestions? Are there any around that area that you could give us?
Certainly, I'm very fond of Cokedale, and I've got a list going, but I'm gonna freeze up if I try to remember them all. But you know, Pat Masterson. I also like the whole Al Capone thing from here. Coke ovens. I love Trinidad history, Santa Fe Trail. There are a lot of things that we can tie in to these trails.
Coke oven trails.
Can you please have Chris meet with the Parks and Rec Board to answer their questions and have that conversation?
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay, anybody else have any?
One follow-up, would there be any ability of people to do cross-country skiing and be part of it as well?
I think the beginner loop, that purple loop, would be easy for a cross-country skier. Certainly the road, they would have to use skins to get up and down that road because it's so steep. Now snowshoeing, on the other hand, would be fantastic.
That's popular too.
Yeah, so, and I would love to get this first half done this year. I think if we started in the next week or two, if that's an option, we could have this done by December, but I really expect this to be snowed in by the end of December, and I won't be able to get back out here again until everything melts, which is generally late April, early May. Certainly it was snowed in until about then this year.
Mr. Ruger, can we have this on the agenda for August 6th?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
Maybe it's more important to find out about the highway deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely need to find that out.
We'll have some kind of answer.
You'll go Thursday, have some kind of answer, right?
Yeah.
But we need to find that out before we put any of that on there. Because that could be a real problem.
You know what my thing is? It's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask permission. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Shut
kidding.
down, and you won't be in trouble. Because you're not going to deal with the state that easily.
No.
But we need to really, I think that's really important. Of all this is to find out about that.
Yeah.
If they're going to let us do that.
My gut feeling is that they're not going to have an issue with this, and if and when again, we're getting 100 people out there a day. We're talking a few dozen.
Because who would be liable for that if they have an
Yeah,
accident?
absolutely.
That's the problem there. It's up on the road there. And people, I don't want to say from what state, but they drive real careful.
I know which state.
I mean, they don't care. They just do
Mexico.
It's close. But it is terrible. The way they drive is really bad.
Well, and that is something actually too, and sorry to prolong this, but that's also, I think, one of the criteria is line of sight. And being that it's just over the top of that hill.
That's why I say it's pretty.
That's gonna count against us, not for us.
Yeah. So I think it's real important.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm not athletic, so I have no idea what it is. So is there, like, when you build these trails, is there any safety measures out there? Like, is there any, like, in case somebody gets hurt, or is there cell service in that area?
There's cell service in most of the area. That is in our design process is absolutely one of the primary criteria. Again, we're trying to build fun, flowy trails, but not, X-game trails. So, and that's the big part of it. We avoid blind corners. You want to be, if you're coming up on a switchback, well, you want to be able to see who's on the other side of that. So when we go to make a turn, we're aiming to make them as safe as possible. So, say you have a hiker coming up and a biker that doesn't have a bell on, well, they're still going to be able to see one another.
I made an inquiry, Mayor, we're building the agenda for the TPR for Thursday. If you'd be able to zoom in, we can actually put this as an agenda at the TPR.
Absolutely.
If you're willing, that would be, put a nail that down.
Okay.
If you're willing, it's Thursday in the morning. I don't know what exact time, but you could always zoom in.
Absolutely.
Not
But
9:30.
I just mean, I don't know what time it'll be on the agenda.
Gotcha.
Right.
You might be there. TPRC.
I'd be glad to be there.
Okay, so I'll have you on the agenda then.
Okay.
Alrighty. Alrighty, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you both.
Item number 2 on the work agenda is rules of decorum, and it's in 2 parts: rules of decorum for boards and commissions, and rules of decorum for city council.
Guess who? Members
I kind
of
of
the council,
figured.
would you pass that out, please? And if I could, to begin, I want to say I'm having
handed out a portion of the Code of Ordinances. And that is the existing code. It's basically on administration. It's really regarding city council meetings. But that is the provision of the code that kind of touches on rules of decorum that is in existence already. And if you'll hearken back a long time ago when we had our conversations on the rules of decorum, and by the way, I'm sorry that we didn't finish this off. You know, it's here again, I'm sure you're all thrilled that it is, but anyway, so I'm sorry we didn't finish it off. And nothing precipitated bringing it back other than it needed to be done, and I wanted to do this before Mr. Ruger left, because he has helped with these. He has a lot of experience in, you know, in utilizing the rules of decorum in Aurora and Rio Rancho, where he's been previously. Anyway, I wanted to get these done while Steve was still here. So the reason why I have two proposed rules of decorum, one for city council and one for other boards and commissions, is in large part because of this, what I just passed out to you, this existing portion of the ordinances, which deals with council meetings. And I think that the council rules of decorum would go in here, right? And this does not, obviously, since this applies to city council meetings, it wouldn't apply to boards and commissions. And I know it would be weird to have another almost identical provision of the code elsewhere in the code that would apply to boards and commissions, but I think that may be easier. Also, I did want to tell you, and I want to listen to whatever you have to say. I can comment on any provision you may have questions about. I don't want to necessarily discuss everything, but I do want to emphasize, and lest I forget, I really do think we need rules of decorum. I think everybody like this should have them, and I do want to say that I don't feel like the rules of decorum should be part of the ethics code. That is, if there is an alleged violation of the rules of decorum, then any one of you, especially the presiding officer, Mayor, could draw an ethics complaint, right? Because rules of decorum, we want to enforce them, we hope to enforce them, but they apply not only to council, they apply to the audience members, they apply to staff, they apply to everyone who's participating in city council meetings. But again, there will be violations of rules of decorum, I suppose. We want to keep those to a minimum, but they are, you know, they are, to be fair, I don't nod your head, Councilman Williamson. That sounds, no, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. But you're right, you don't, when there is a violation for whatever reason, you don't want to, you know, run the risk of therefore having an ethics complaint for like an unintentional violation. I do want to say that in this code provision that I just handed out to all of you. Oh, and I'm sorry, Steve and Kim. I have one for you guys. There you go. Absolutely. It was kind of interesting because if you go to paragraph 9 on the second page, it says manner of addressing mayor. Every member, right? You see that?
Yeah.
Every member previous to his or her speaking shall address himself or herself to the mayor and say, Mr. Mayor. So we better change that. Right? Yeah, exactly. That should have been, you know, probably gender inclusive before we had a female mayor, but certainly now we'll need to make that modification. But I digress. In paragraph 7, they do also say there, mayor to decide questions of order, the mayor shall preserve order and decorum. Might be a good place to have that go. But anyway, with all that having been said, I want to listen to anything you have to say and listen to what you have to say.
Aaron, your turn.
I mean, with the exception of the things you've spoken about, Mr. Mayor inserting an order of decorum, I'd say make it so.
That was easy. Just kidding.
Yeah, I agree with AA Ron. Decorum helps things move smoother and keeps everything nice and tight. So.
I'm worried about Aaron. Yeah, but it's going well on that side so far. Okay, good.
Oh, it actually addresses the issue I've been complaining about.
Item 10, no member shall speak more than twice to the general question. I mean, I think several times we violated that ourselves, but we're discussing, you know, somebody talks and then, it prompts you to think about in that direction, then you ask a question. Is that important?
No, well, I was gonna say, that's in the existing portion of the code, and you're right, it does say in here also that these rules can be relaxed, right? But you're right, it does say that in the existing code, and but Steve, any suggestions?
Yeah, so that's actually straight out of Robert's rules. So Robert's rules are very clear that no member shall be able to talk more than twice, and I believe it's for a maximum of 10 minutes at a time. So if that does happen, what would happen is if someone thought that was against the rules, you could call a point of order at that point, and then, the chair, you, Mayor, would make a ruling. What I've witnessed in the past is most of the time you do want that opinion. You want someone to be able to speak maybe a third time because they've had an epiphany. And with the consent of the council, you would just allow that. So it would only really be an issue if a council member spoke more than twice, someone called a point of order, and then you as a body voted to say, no, we're not going to allow it more than twice.
Is there anything in here that addresses that every council person has the opportunity to speak until you speak for the second time as a council person? Is that?
No, but say that again.
Okay, so for instance, we go around the dais and ask everybody's opinion. And then sometimes is there anything that addresses if not everybody on the dais is allowed to speak, then can a council person that have already speak again before everybody has is there a right to say anything?
There's nothing in there, and I'm happy to make any additions.
Mayor, that is a comment that actually is in Robert's rule. There's a provision that says something about no member shall speak twice before every member has been afforded the opportunity
to speak. You did it so eloquently.
So yeah, so we could put something like that in there specifically. It is covered in Robert's rules, but I'll make a note of that. And that really should be the case. Everybody should have the opportunity to speak once before.
I've been enforcing it, but I didn't.
You have?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have nothing else.
Councilman Shu nodded his head in the negative, which is the thumbs of approval. The record should reflect.
I just was trying to figure out how these, the two rules of decorum drafts that you gave us regarding city council and the boards of commission, how do they fit with this? Like, where would they fit within the ordinances? Excuse me.
Well, my main concern was with the council rules and where they would fit. And that, I think, would be in this section 215 that I had handed out. And probably after paragraph 7, where it says, in the code, mayor to decide questions of order, the mayor shall preserve order and decorum and shall decide all questions of order, maybe in there. And the boards and commissions are a number of places where I can think of, but I'm not sure, to answer your question. But I could find a place, with the help of Audra and Steve. I think we can find a suitable place.
Yeah, I think it would go under our ordinance for boards and commissions in general, and it would just be a new section that would say rules of decorum for boards and commissions. Okay. And so it would be compartmentalized from your rules. But I agree with Les. I think after number 7 or somewhere in here, we can fit that in, because it is independent of the rules that are already here. However, we will cross-reference anything that gets approved to make sure it doesn't conflict with anything that's existing as well.
Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna be, excuse me, the next thing that we're gonna be doing down the road is approving these draft rules of decorum as part of, like, it'll be an ordinance that we're putting in. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I had some questions about both of those things, but they're not anything substantive particularly, and so I could just go over with you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great, please. Thank you. And I will call everyone's attention to any proposed changes from this, but happy to do that. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
That was far easier than I thought it would be.
And Mayor, Council, there was one provision that I just noticed now, is number 21. So if I can call your attention to that amendment of rules. These rules may be amended at any meeting of the City Council by consent of 2/3 of the members present. However, that amendment doesn't take effect until the next meeting. But I don't want that to be misconstrued. You always, by majority vote, have the right to suspend any rule or put something aside for that particular meeting. It wouldn't carry over to the next meeting. I just wanted to point that out. So.
Okay.
See how valuable he is in these discussions?
Years of being there.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Item 3, project updates.
So, Mayor, Council, we just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of update you. We provided a project list to you back in April, and we've provided you the same list today. But we have several of our 3 utilities director and Mr. Juster here, so if you guys wouldn't mind coming up and just kind of giving the council your updates on where we're at on some of the projects. Certainly we can start with Bob. We've made a lot of progress on a lot of things and have started on some other things. So I'll turn it over to Bob. And then we're all here to answer any questions you have. We've again provided you the list in your packet. And so we're happy to have that discussion with you today.
No question will go unanswered.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I guess we'll start with Public Works. That's the first project on here. Cost share sidewalk program is still ongoing and we're still getting participants. And there's still money in the budget for it. So if you know anybody that wants to replace curb gutter or sidewalk, please send them our way. Central Park improvements, that project is nearing completion. We have a few change orders to complete it. I think as Mr. Ruger probably has pointed out too, we're having a ribbon cutting ceremony on Friday at 5:30. Yep. So I'd like to see you all there. Yep. First Preach project, we're going to actually start finish up the striping on Thursday. We send out notices that we're basically going to shut down the street at the end of the workday on Wednesday. And if all goes well, we'll have it completely striped by the end of Thursday. We are, I mean, that's weather dependent, whatnot, but it's about the last thing on the First Street project that needs to be completed. And that, as you notice, parking is kind of chaos around there, and this will at least help them direct them. And we ran diagonal parking on First Street. They've been doing perpendicular, so it's a lot different. So, 88 curb cut phase 2 is complete. We're on to 88 phase 3 and phase 4. PBR is on phase 3 has 5 out of the 33 curb cuts completed. A big section of sidewalk. Most of that's been done up on San Juan, and he is on Arizona now. So that project's going really well. They're moving along. We completed 3 curb corners on attachment B, which is part of the DOJ requirement. And we have additional requirements attachment B, but we've got 3 corners already completed. Central Park Lake, we dredged it. Seems like the cattails are coming back, so we're going to try a chemical process of maybe trying to hit them with some a weed killer. But we took out a lot of cattails earlier this spring. So Central Park turf, that's part of the Central Park project. That is completed. Glad to say there was not one change order on that project. The contractor went through, did everything. It was asked to do. We've had a couple little hiccups they came back and addressed. So great contractor, seems to be a real success. Next project, historic train repainting. I think that's an Audra project.
Go ahead, Steve.
Which one is it? Sorry.
The historic train
Oh, the
repainting.
historic train, yeah. So we have, actually, we did our solicitation, had the train painted, and the one bid we got back originally was insane. It was like $250,000. $213,000 to paint the train. So obviously we said no to that. So after doing some searching and resoliciting, we've now gotten it down to the 50,000? 49.5, which seems reasonable. There are a lot of little intricacies, particularly on the engine, but Audra's been working with the painters. We're actually going to paint the nose of the train silver, and we're trying to match how it looked historically as much as possible. But there are people that actually come specifically to Trinidad. We know the group that comes every October to see the train, so we're really excited to get that going. And that did they start? Have you seen them out there?
They'll start tomorrow.
Okay, they're going to start tomorrow.
Next project, I think, is Audra as well. Space to create cat hay and wall improvements.
And Mayor, Council, I can talk to you about that too. We did a bid for improving the restaurant space at Space to Create to accommodate the restaurant. You all approved the liquor license from Ms. Franks. She'll be opening the restaurant. That was again done as a competitive solicitation. So we actually, Audra and I just were on the phone with Trinidad Construction Group late last week. They're waiting for a couple of parts to come in, but we've been promising that Krista can get in there and open hopefully by Labor Day weekend, and they've assured us that it'll be ready to go by then. So one of the big things that had to happen there was a hood, and you all are more than welcome to stop by Space to Create. It's an impressive hood, and it better be for how much we paid for it. It is required for any restaurant to go in there, but I'm really glad that we're able to finally realize the full vision for that property.
Not sure the next project, this is projects that are under construction, is the skate park, and I don't think there's been anything done on that.
Mayor, Council, I can update you on that too. I talked with Karen Wolf this morning, and she's been designated the project manager. She is very close to finalizing the specs on that and getting the bid out, rebid out on that as well. So she has been busy planting flowers and doing her normal Karen things, but we hope to get that out ASAP. She's been communicating with the skate park community as well. And I know they want it done ASAP, we do too, so we're still moving along on that. I'm hoping that it's a little bit over $100,000 we have budgeted for that out of lottery funds. I'm hoping we can find a decent contractor to come in and do it much cheaper than that. Bob can talk a little bit, but it really is just patchwork and repair work. It's nothing that should be outside of the scope of any qualified concrete repairer. So it's not anybody that needs to be specialized in skate per se. But we're hoping there's some some savings from that lottery money. And then one of the things that we'd like to do is add that to our funding for, and this is off script, but for the dog park. That's something else Karen is also working on. And we really, really want to have that be a tremendous amenity for our community.
Next project is Dave's power plant roof.
And so they replaced the whole roof, obviously, and there's no leaks, hollering. And I just talked to Gerald today, and he said it's all good. And that was completed end of May. So,
good.
And Mayor, Council, sorry to keep hogging the conversation.
You're gonna have to stand up.
I know, I should just go there. But I do want to point out, and Dave, correct me if I get the year wrong, but we don't think that roof has been replaced since the 60s.
Yes.
So high time, and it's remarkable that it lasted as long as it did.
Very.
So we got our money's worth on that.
I'll let you take the next one too, Steve.
Okay,
Golf course repairs.
I know. Golf course repairs, yeah. So that's something that, actually, thank you to everybody standing up here. It's been a team effort. We've removed a lot of dead trees. There's still a few more, I think, that we can do, but we've gotten to the point where sight lines are good. I've personally gotten some feedback from the golfers that it's a much more enjoyable experience for them. The Golf Association themselves are doing their part. They're doing a much better job this year on the greens. I've been up there a couple of times, and then anecdotally I've heard that it looks really nice this year. And then we've also done significant repair work to the clubhouse and then also some restrooms that are up there as well. So all in all, it should be a much better experience, but as our consultant mentioned, there's still a lot of things that need to be addressed, particularly a very expensive irrigation repair. So we'll keep chipping away, but at least for this summer, people should be having a much better experience than they've had in the last few years. And thank you, Councilmember Ogletree, again, for your being a liaison there. I think that's been really helpful.
If you're doing so well, go on to animal shelter, Steve.
Well, animal shelter is the gift that keeps on giving. So, as you remember last year, we had to redo a lot of the HVAC because of the original installation. Since then, we've really gotten the facility up to the point where we're passing all of our PACFA inspections, and that's the important thing. So no concerns about failing any inspections because of the facility itself. We did have a monkey wrench get thrown in. The staff over there were able to get a donated washer and dryer, but to ventilate that, it's kind of a costly thing to add a ventilation system for those. So we did find some money to be able to do that. The new kennels, and I really want to give a thanks to John Wilkinson. He's been giving up his Saturdays and Sundays to really get out there and help with the construction of those. Pam, our shelter manager, her husband's actually been coming in and volunteering as well. So lots of love to the facility, but we have a shelter now that the dogs are just, they're awesome. It's night and day. They're so much happier compared to what I was seeing a year ago. And so we're going to continue working on the back part of Noah's Ark. There's some space back there. As you remember, last year we tore down the water cooler, that old wooden structure that was there, and that's opened up some space not only for expansion for what Mr. Machicha does, but also maybe some opportunities for Noah's Ark as well.
What do you guys want to talk about the JCI closeout?
I'll let Audrey take that one.
They all look at Audrey at the same time.
JCI contract closeout was our meter project, and it did affect all of our utilities with the exception of wastewater. Basically the project had stalled altogether. We restarted that project, insisted that the JCI come in and complete the project, or we would call their bonds. That always makes the ball roll a little bit faster. Finally, we're at the point where we've advertised notice of final settlement for this Wednesday, and that one will be closed out. That's it. I think that's the only one I had.
So just to add to that, the gas department is still installing some of the endpoints on the meters. Through the process, I think it was only supposed to last 1 year. It's last 7 years. So in that point, we've added meters that were not in the original audit. So you probably will see my guys still installing some endpoints on the meters. We're done with JCI, but now we're picking up where we could get the full gas system installed.
Who will give the report on what our savings will be with that now that we've completed that? Is there any figures from anybody on that? No?
I think it's lasted too long.
Yeah, I would agree with what Steve said. During that time frame, that we've seen utility increases from all three of the utilities. Right. So I don't know if JCI will be at a point where they can actually give us those numbers. It's part of our contract. We'll still follow up with them.
I'd like to.
But technically, the savings is supposed to make the payments.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Okay.
We have noticed, though, with this new system, a lot more accountability by the customers of gas. When they come in to make a complaint, we can look back on it. We can pull up a chart, so it has helped a lot.
Good.
I think a lot of my system was, there was a lot of meters that were broke that were getting estimated. We didn't know about it. Now everything's, if the meter stops working within a day or two, we get it back working. As you estimate, we don't know what gas, we just try to get an estimate.
Okay.
So it's improved in that way,
Okay,
that we're noticing.
Okay.
And Mayor, not just on the gas side, that's the great thing about the new meters is that we can pretty much assure every single one of our customers that they're being billed properly. on all of our utilities.
Golf course repair part two, I think Steve mentioned a lot of moving dead trees, and then looks like they added a new crew to the clubhouse, is that correct?
Yep.
The next one, did you
So
see?
the First Street 6-inch gas pipeline replacement, we're all done with that. It was part of the First Street project, we did this all in-house. Replaced the gas line from Convent to Walnut Street. We got that all replaced. Chestnut Street was thrown on there, I don't want to say at the last minute, but it wasn't in the original design, so we finished that one. It wasn't in April, it was more like the first part of June. Got that one finished, so those two are complete.
Okay, and the 400 block of West 4th Street for water, we have not got started on any of our water projects yet. We've been working on the lead and copper rule revision. October of this year, we were supposed to have a complete survey done in order to stay in compliance. We went along with the state-approved contractor, and our guys have been going out door to door and looking at every single service line and reporting it, and they have completed with that now. So we will be in compliance as far as having the survey done by October. So we are now just going to get started on some of these water lines. In fact, I think this afternoon they went out to the 200 block of East Scotty. We're going to tackle that one first. So it's one block. It's actually a 6-inch water line. An old 6-inch water line that we've had numerous water leaks on. So we're going to replace that one block of water line and reconnect those services to the new main. And then we'll move forward with the rest of the 400 block of West 4th Street.
Oh, sure. What is the, okay, so when we've got this lead and copper survey done, if it shows problems, then what happens?
Now that we get this done, if it shows that we have any lead in our service lines, then they'll start to make it mandatory that we're going to have to, we will have to come back and for the city start replacing those, and we'll have to have a plan in place.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we don't believe that we have, I guess on the service line side, but the distribution lines, we don't have any lead lines, is that correct?
Well, it's a debate right now. We do have leaded goosenecks on our service lines. Okay, they're at this point in the states saying that's not part of it. If it is, then it could really, because we have a lot of leaded goosenecks on the service lines. As far as the water mains, all of our old cast iron water mains have leaded joints.
Okay.
So they haven't even gotten to that yet. So this is always coming down the pipe. But as for right now, the debate is whether the leaded gooseneck, from what I'm hearing, if it's so many feet of leaded gooseneck, it's going to be considered a leaded service line. Right now, we're in compliance. It just depends on where the state takes us from here. So,
I have a quick question about it. Sure. And I believe it's related to that. When we do water quality sampling and we get that water quality, where are those sample points pulled? Is that an end user or?
We have X amount based on population that we do lead and copper once a year. Mm-hmm. And we test for lead and copper sampling. We've been fine all along.
Yeah.
But you pull it from the users, correct?
From the customers.
Oh, so it is pulled at an end of line
Customers'
somewhere, an actual, oh.
Yep,
I mean,
all customers' water
yeah.
taps.
And I think that's just.
You're one of them. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's a good indication, I mean, that we have good quality water here.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct.
I don't know what was on.
I just wanted to be that part of the record, I mean, we don't want to alarm.
Yeah, we have to let them know where we're pulling from.
Yeah, okay.
So.
How many samples do you, I'm sorry, how many samples do you take besides one?
You would ask that question. I'm not gonna guess. It's several, it's based on population. I can't give you the exact number that we're doing, so.
They even pull samples like outside of in the territories that are outside the city of Trinidad. It's required.
It's our complete distribution system. So yeah, the water associations have their own ORC, their own operator responsible charge. They're responsible for everything downside of their meter, so they have to do them from their associations.
Do you even test extraterritorial?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that part of the testing requirement?
It is.
Okay.
Because it's on our distribution system.
Okay.
Mayor Council, we don't have JD here, but I just wanted to mention we do robust testing of our effluent as well. And the state has added a bunch of additional requirements, so we're constantly monitoring that. One thing that we opted into last year was testing for pathogens. So this kind of stemmed from COVID, but the state requested, at no cost to us, to be able to monitor our effluent for infectious disease and that type of thing. So we are sending samples for that as well.
Have we gotten any reports
No.
yet?
No. We were high in, what was it, mercury at one point. But it was just this isolated incident last year, and we've tested fine all around that. So we don't know what got into the system, but we figure it was an isolated incident, but we are monitoring that as well.
Broke a thermometer.
That's probably what happened.
I was gonna say, I eat a lot of fish.
Yeah, I eat sushi less than
I had a question for Bob. Bob, how much money is allocated for the sidewalk project? Is it first come, first served? And is it start in 2025 or?
We actually allocated, the first year we had 75,000. Yeah, Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we did 150,000 this year. So it is first come, first served. So
until the money runs out.
Yes.
You have cap per.
Yeah, and we have a cap per person.
All right.
Per maximum $7,500 per.
I believe we still have some money left in that fund.
We do.
And I just signed an agreement yesterday, or late last week, for a sidewalk project, so we're really happy to see people take advantage of that.
Quite a few people are engaged in that. And it's helping us, it's helping our EDA, because it's part of our DOJ requirements to get this city accessible. So if someone's on a corner lot and they opt to do the two side streets in the city, we'll pay for the ramp, the curb ramp. The city will jump in and with that contractor and put that handicap ramp in, so there's one less ramp that we have to take care of.
Fox, the year, P&L.
Yes, we took that primary down, so it's underground right now, behind the box there, so they can do the mortar and those bricks.
And Dave, so some of the poles we have back in the parking lot, that's part of it, so these will get removed.
Yes.
Which is great. It's really going to clean up our city hall parking lot as well.
Good. Okay. Southside Park is done.
We still need to put the net up. We thought we were done with the scoreboard, but they sent us a net. So we're in the process of, Steve's welding the poles. Dave will dig the holes. Somebody will drop the poles in, probably Public Works will put the poles in concrete on that. And we'll come back and string cable and set the net. So it's actually a project that worked out really well. It was kind of, most of the city forces went together to get it put up, and it ended up being quite more extensive than the cost of the scoreboard.
But I want to thank all of these guys and Jared too. They really went out of their way to accommodate that, figure out what needed to happen, and it was out of scope. But we do have the old scoreboard that's still there that we're trying to find something really cool to do with. So we'll bring some suggestions on that.
Put it for the trail.
Oh, that's good.
With neon lights.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Don't care about state patrol.
Exactly.
Sorry.
The next project, Public Works took out the old bridge that was at the community center because it was about ready to fall in. We have a culvert that's underneath it. We're not going to go back in with the bridge. We're going to go in with barrier rails, backfill it, and pour a sidewalk over the top of it. So, time permitting, that's probably going to be a summer project. We'll do it this summer. We can buy some concrete blocks either from Leone and build up the sides back.
Do you feel like a Texas crossing for people then?
Exactly. And the flows, there's a culvert for the flows that are underneath it. Before there was a bridge, and then with the culvert there, so we're still leaving the culvert that's there. So we want to try and get that done before the the fall volleyball starts off at the center. So they have access to the center right now through the one that Steve his gas line just went through there to the south. Yeah, the swimming pool access. I guess this goes on to Steve Fox exterior, but
Yeah, the exterior stabilization of the box here. That project's done. So the crews came in, I'm sure you saw them with their lifts out there and the scaffolding over the last many months. That's done. So really, the box's integrity of the shell of the building is where it needs to be. So right now we have a grant for the north infrastructure enclosure that we're talking about and trying to make some arrangements. So that's kind of the next phase of the process. Obviously the retail stores are done, so really what's left on the box is raising the money to actually complete the interior portion of the theater and the ballroom. And that's where, you know, that's the, I guess, $17 million question on how we raise those funds. We've used a couple of our EIAF cycles through DOLA to fund some things. We're steering away from that from the Fox now because we have some very important projects that take precedent. But the Fox West Theater Alliance is actually looking at restructuring, which I hope they do. I think there's 27 members on that board, which is way too many to be effective. So they're looking at ways that they can restructure and become more effective as well.
The next project, the Willow Pine Interchange project, the South Y, we just replaced the sidewalk and curb ramps on that portion.
That's me too, Bob. So I can talk about that. We're, I noticed our crews were out there. So last year I directed that all the weeds, they got way overgrown. We removed all of those. Since that time, we have put in slats on the chain link fence to cover up the transformer that's out there. We wanted to do college colors, but apparently they don't make slats in college colors, unfortunately. So we went with a neutral beige. I know, but Karen Wolf is also designing that project in partnership with Rich Gallegos. But I'll let Audra speak a little bit. We have a proposal. There's a piece of land across from it to the south that we own, and there's an art installation that wants to go there, correct?
The arts, yes.
Where?
So where the triangle is there?
Yeah.
So if you go directly to the south, there's a vacant piece of land there. The city owns that. That's where we put in the new sidewalk.
Yes.
And we have a proposal from, I think, the Arts Commission, right?
Yeah, Arts Commission is proposing doing some, it's a different kind of xeriscaping. It's a, I'm gonna say it wrong, labyrinth?
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. Yeah, and so they looked at that property, and then the city has another property that's up off of, do you remember? The one that we talked about. I sent the pictures.
For the raccoon bench?
No.
No. Which one?
I'm not going to remember. It's a neighborhood pocket park that the city has. So rather than having to maintain it, keep the weeds down, the Arts Commission wants to, I'm hoping they'll put one there as well. They have a very, no, it's not Portland. It's up in.
Is it by the triangle, by Willow?
No.
It's
It's up off of like the Stonewall area. Atchison.
Oh, Atchison.
Yes.
Oh, there.
Yes.
Oh.
So they want to put another one there.
By
And so it accomplishes a couple things. It creates a park, but it also creates areas that are xeriscaped or very low maintenance to help out our public works department.
Do you know who owns the land over there on Colorado, I mean, Kansas, state? There's a corner there, do we own that?
We own that corner.
How come we don't do something there, take that big cotton down? Is that nothing but weeds?
I agree that tree needs to come down before it falls down.
Yeah, it's gonna kill somebody. Plus, that land there is just full of weeds and stuff, we need to get that cleared out. That'd be a good place to put a little.
Just for the record, we said cut down a tree.
And Councilmember Shu, that whole arroyo that goes through there, I talked with Rich about getting that all cleaned out. We'll make sure that specifically gets flagged. I like that idea.
And State Street, going right across from the Four Square Church.
And it's a dead tree.
Oh.
No, it's not dead, I don't
be
think.
Oh, it's not dead.
No, it's not.
It's kind of heavy.
That would be a great place to put one of those that's like in a, you know, the ones that are shrub high and, or even this high and you have to go walk through a maze. Because that's a larger property.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Let's add that to the list.
It's on my list. I know.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
I think I spoke briefly about phase 3 ADA. So we're on to Simpson's Rest.
Yep, I guess that's me too. So about a year and a half ago, we received a small, we executed a small contract for about $2,000 to partner with the University of Colorado Denver. Their architectural school wanted to come and do a redesign of the top of Simpson's Rest. So since then, it's college students and they did a terrific job, but it was very abstract ideas and very contemporary architectural ideas. We want to keep it as a focal point for the view more than anything else, but have it be a nice landing. So Jared has talked to you guys a little bit about acquiring some of the land from the Morgans to expand up there. And then our Public Works Department, I believe Gary Cherry Jr. has been working on it. And so he's, as far as I know, about finished with the design. So as soon as we work through the land acquisition, we want to get that project going as soon as possible. We do have money committed for it.
Sanitary sewer point repair, we had a grant, key word had, that grant is now expired, so at the time when we were slip lining and we needed to dig up a section of line, we were able to fix that portion of the sewer and then the grant would take care of it, so, but the time has ran out on the grant, so that project is done.
So why did that happen? Why?
There was a time limit on it, and we tried to exhaust all the, we even used some of the money from the grant on First Street, like on Commercial Street when we had to replace that sewer line. It just, the time just ran out on it. It just, they gave you, it was a DOLA grant. We had X amount of dollars to spend in a certain amount of time. So my understanding, it just ran out. I mean, literally like last month.
How much did we lose?
That would be a Cheryl question, but I think we used most of it. I really don't know, Mayor.
Okay.
That would be a Cheryl question.
But Mayor, it's a really good question. That's been something that's been important to me since I started. If we are going for a grant, the first step we take at this point is to make sure we have the capacity to complete it. So everything we have in the hopper at this point, we're assured that if we get money, we're going to spend every dime of it. So.
Steve, you want to talk about pickleball courts?
Yeah, you guys had a briefing recently, so I don't need to go into too much detail. I actually personally went out to Los Niños with Jared to look. We think we can put the pickleball courts right at the entrance there, kind of on the south by where the old public works yard is. It's brilliant because it has access right there, and then I'm going to spring this on Bob in a meeting, but Jared had a really good idea about putting angled parking along the park there so we can have a really nice parking lot. Audra also has some really, really good ideas about encroaching a little bit into the park. But the one thing I did want to mention, the context of this is, as we all know, the soccer field there has not been regulation, so people haven't been using it. With the county's proposal to build new soccer fields up by the state fairgrounds, we've had conversations with the community. We don't feel like that field is necessary. We do have regulation fields at Central Park as well. So we are going to be bringing some proposals really for Los Niños to you all in the near future to look at how we can really activate that. It's such a beautiful space, and we really feel like there's a lot of opportunities there.
Saddle Road, we actually have a pre-construction meeting on Wednesday this week. So they're going to start construction on the Saddle Road sewer sooner than later. So that, as you know, that's a money that came to you guys that we had from a previous developer, and then the Duran group is picking up the excess. So that's going to start here. Like I said, probably we have a pre-construction meeting Wednesday. LEA is probably 90–95% design. We're kind of waiting for funding on that. We kind of ran into, Cheryl told us to hold off on projects, so we got, help me out, Steve, coming up soon, the next year's budget, that's what I was thinking of. So if we can put it in the budget, we'll definitely, it's ready to, let's go. It's like I said, it's 95% complete.
Bob, those funds are committed. I'll talk with Cheryl. We need to get that project going ASAP. There's no reason to delay it any further.
Okay, I was told different, but
we'll have that conversation.
I attended a community conversation program where people came and provided input on what they like. Has that been taken into account?
It has.
In the design?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Councilmember Ogletree's right. Our friends at DOLA came down and they brought some consultants with them for free to us during Santa Fe Trail Days to look at Alley A. So the suggestions they make don't really pertain to the construction rehabilitation. It's more about the amenities we add thereafter.
Okay.
But we are absolutely taking those into consideration.
Okay.
So Steve, may I ask a question there?
Please.
You did say there is funds. That's the way.
You all committed funds.
Yeah.
So I'll talk with Cheryl directly and see what her concerns are. But I don't see any reason to delay it.
Okay.
Train signs, I think that's an Audra, along with the train painting.
So after the train is, it's an obvious, after the train is repainted, we will order new signage, and the Historic Preservation Commission actually wants to add some verbiage about the train itself. They were the ones that asked that the front of the train be painted the silver color. That was the original color, and actually the roof of the engine will be painted red. Again, another feature that was
Audra, do you have that rendering handy?
downstairs.
Okay.
I can bring, I'll pass it along.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But part of this project too, just so council knows, the $49,500, which I think is a really great price, includes repainting the perimeter fence and also graveling underneath of the train so that it's dressed up all the way around. It's not just going to be repainting the train and then we're done.
And
So,
repairs also, right?
yeah, repairs. There's quite a bit of rotten wood on the train. So they'll be removing the wooden features and replacing them. Some of the wooden features will be left, they'll be polyurethane or left with a natural wood look instead of painted wood after, which I think will also make it really dressy. So, exciting.
What about the flags? Who takes care of those?
We do. So I believe all their flags were replaced recently, correct?
You know, it's been a while.
Okay.
Their wind beat been shut. Yeah, they need to be replaced.
Okay.
That's us. We try. It's about 2 times a year we end up doing it.
2 times a year. Okay.
Fisher's Peak Dam remediation, FPC2 is the dam that I came to you guys. We're still waiting for Jones to Mill to finish the design on it. We'd asked them to break it up into phases because it's going to be, according to their estimate, over $1 million. So if we can just chip away at it and not go in with the whole gamut of the project, is going to be better on our budget. So.
And Mayor Council, on that one, they're basically designing it for a full rehabilitation. Structurally, Bob and I have looked at it. There isn't a need for that immediately. The one big thing is the pipe that runs underneath it. That we for sure know needs to be replaced. So we're going to focus on making that happen. But the good thing is we're getting this design for free, so it'll last indefinitely. And then as future funding becomes available, we can do more for the dam.
Right, they're going to help us find grant for money as well.
Exactly.
City garage sanitary sewer and city garage storm sewer. That's down at the existing garage. So anyway, it's under design. What we're going to do is, we currently right now our septic system that's out there, it's at capacity. We have to pump once a month, and what we're going to do is I've already talked to the county health department. We're going to relocate the leach field to we own the property on the other side of the ditch that's behind the facility. And they've given us permission to go ahead and submit a new leach field back there. Storm sewer, at one time we were gonna do a new fleet building down there, but and it was tied in with doing storm drainage at the same time. We're still gonna do the storm drainage. When we get a lot of high rains or a wet snow, the parking lot turns into a lake. We're gonna capture that, and we can't dump it into the ditch, but we can dump it onto our property, basically where we're gonna be relocating the septic system to. So there's 2 projects that are under design. We should have those completed soon. Main Street reconstruction, that's being designed by SGM, a consultant. We just reviewed 90% design drawings, and everybody, the utility guys here, had comments that we turned back to them that we needed to address some of the issues on the plans. So anyway, we're in the process of getting comments back to them, and hopefully we can find a grant to do that section. They're estimating that project to be, they're estimating to be $9 million, but we think they're a little high on that. So we're hoping it's down in the 6 to 7 mil.
That's been in the works for quite a while, hasn't it?
It has been.
That mean.
Yeah.
How come it's taken so long?
I'll be honest with you, Mayor. One of the things they came back at 90%, they had curb and gutter slopes at less than 0.5%, 0.2. And if we end up doing that, we're gonna have duck ponds. The streets are gonna fall apart. To give you an example, across from Steve's gas shop, when they did Elm Street, we had 0.4% on the curb and gutter grade there. And that's why the asphalt's failing right across the street from his shop. And when I saw that we had slopes at 0.2, I just said, we can't have that, you know? So we've kind of gotten into we're gonna go back to them and say, you need to fix this, you know? Kind of disappointed with the performance, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not, I don't feel it's designed properly.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question too. Talking about streets and grade and all that. State Street over there where Prospect apartments are. What can we do with that street? It's a lake. All the asphalt's failing in there.
It is. It needs to be. That's a tough one because I actually designed the grading on that back in, for when PVC built it many years ago. And I asked, at the time, I asked the city if there's one outlet that goes, it drops down in front of Mr. What's his name? His house there, where it ponds? Yes, what did I say his name?
Pachicha.
Bacacha, that's it.
Close. You're close.
Close, very good.
And it basically has,
I was talking to him.
it has a 12-inch line that runs out to the river. And I asked, at the time, I asked the city, we need to increase this so we could get the flows out of there. And they didn't have the money because it goes underneath the interstate, it goes underneath the railroad and dumps into the river. So we're kind of hamstring on that until bite the bullet to increase the storm drainage on that. So,
but the street is slipped in. That's where all the water stays. It's not going to the drain.
Yeah, it's flat in there. There's not a whole lot of grade in there, but there wasn't a lot to work with. Problem is, if you'd have raised it at the upper end, and now your sidewalk curb and gutter starts rising above, like up towards Pine Street. And it was the only inlet in the whole, so that's the only way it was to run out to that inlet right there.
Bob, can we put that as a priority, put some eyes on and get some suggestions?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that's a bad area there. I mean, it's just, and then pretty soon there ain't gonna be any street there because it's deteriorating.
Heavily traveled.
Yeah, it is too.
We took the crown out of it and we sloped from Prospect, we sloped it to the west side to help that out. But still, there's not a lot of slope in that street.
Okay.
Santa Fe Trail multi-use path is under design. The surveyors, as we speak, are on site acquiring data. Jenny told me that they're gonna be down by Morris Canyon tomorrow, so that is, they're procuring design information as we speak, so.
And Mayor, Council, I'm happy to tell you why that one's taking so long. And Audra can attest to this. We originally got our grant from CDOT, and 9 months went by before they even had any conversation with us about a grant agreement. Then they came down, met with us. They wanted to transfer the funding to a different source to prioritize a project in Pueblo. So it took forever to work through the grant agreement with CDOT, but as soon as we got it, we immediately hired the engineer and are moving forward full steam on that. So we have a deadline, I think, of 2026 to spend those funds, but we don't get it
That's
anyway before that.
been several years.
I know, we're frustrated too, so.
I understand.
So, excuse me, may I ask?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have to spend the money by 2026. Is that just on the design we have to spend the money?
That's
or
the construction as well, I believe, correct, Audra? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we expect the design, Bob, to be done this fall.
That's correct.
And so we feel like we have adequate time to hire the contractor and get it constructed.
Okay.
Hopefully next year.
Correct.
So if we pay a contractor in next year, then it'll be done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Audible pedestrian signals, again, that's a CDOT grant. I want to say it was it 150,000, Steve?
That sounds right.
The consultant has eaten up a big portion of that. Actually, it wasn't 150, it was like 75,000. But at the end of the day, we're going to have approximately $25,000 put towards the project. It's near completion. There was nobody in house that could do that, so we had to go out to design on that. Jimmy Hastings, was that SEH?
Yeah.
Group is doing that.
And Bob, as part of the Main Street redesign, we want all of our signals to basically replicate what you see at Commercial and Main. So they're all consistent and all historic looking. So that's part of that project as well.
Okay, and then under water tank rehabilitation, we just reserved, well, we have $1 million ARPA funds to be provided for that. And just this last week, we were awarded the DOLA loan, correct?
Yeah, Friday at 5:27, after I'd sent out the weekly update, we got the notice that we had received $1 million worth of DOLA funding. That was where I went to present in Montrose. So really happy to get that funding. So between that, some revolving loan funds of about $2 million, and then ARPA funding that needs to be spent by the end of this year, we have $4 million for this project. And it's probably the biggest safety and important public works project that we have in the
So we're getting close. We still have a couple, we have another Pickalooper Bennett that we applied for, $2 million. I just talked to a gentleman last week and asked if we got 50% of that, how that would affect us. So we still have that also along with the state revolving fund. So we're moving forward now. We're starting to move forward on
that. Public Works building, like I said, originally we were going to place it out at where the existing fleet shop is, but it makes more sense. Steve had purchased a piece of property by the gas building, and there's still a piece left, and it would make more sense to get us centrally located so we're not running loaders and backhoes up, wearing them out, going up and down the highway. So that design, the survey's been done, completed in-house. The guys went out and shot it. Design, we've started on it, so hopefully we can, Steve will correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we'll need funding on that project to go forward, right?
We do have some funding committed already, but we'll see. Let's get it designed. There is a tree in the way.
The least of all.
So I have a question. I have a concern because that's right next to the Riverwalk. That's not gonna, I mean, aesthetically pleasing.
We have talked about that. We feel like it'll be a nice staging area for maintaining the Riverwalk as well. But that is something that is on our radar. We certainly don't want it to be an ugly warehouse building as you walk by. So we'll look at whatever we can to make that just a really nice corridor.
We plan on fencing it, and if we have to, we'll slat it or whatever we gotta do to kind of block it.
Okay.
Steve put up a nice fence around his building.
Yes. What about the property we bought off of Santa Fe Trail at Isaac Walton? Is that, is there any usable?
So we want to use that for storage primarily, and then a shop for, you know, future Parks and Rec opportunities as well. I don't know if Audra wants to tell you, okay, we won't mention her idea, but she has some really good ideas to make it super aesthetically appealing. So.
I had an epiphany.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. We'll tell you.
ADA attachment B, that's part of our requirement with the DOJ that, so we got phase 3 and attachment B that we have to get completed. Like I said, we got 3 of the 3 corners done. That's part of the attachment. And then, with the rest of it's under design, we'll go out to bid as soon as phase 3, or it'll actually go out before phase 3 is completed. Part of our requirement, the next one down, Nevada and Cedar, that's a tough one. That's where we cross the railroad tracks. We've already met with BNSF and CDOT. They're going to require that we get a consultant involved. It's a difficult intersection because, number one, it came back on our traffic study as being the most dangerous where all the accidents happen. And now you put crossing arms from the railroad in there. That's why we have a consultant that's going to, and our ADA attorney, Zane, is giving us a lot of leeway on it. He knows that it takes time when you work with the railroad. So if we don't have that completed by in 25, he's going to give us a grace period on that. So anyway, it's in the process though.
Why can't BNSF? Yeah, and why can't they be accountable for some of that? That's their tracks.
I know, and I think we were there before them, so I agree with you on that. But dealing with the railroad is extremely difficult.
Yes. Okay.
Steve, I'm gonna let you handle the next one because I don't have a clue what a raise grant is.
Raise grants, so it used to be Tiger grants, but which one is it? Because there's 2 pending, but this is the one for the, so Mayor Rico had conversations and we ended up being the local applicant for a raise grant, and it's to do safety improvements, I believe, on the railroad. I want to say it's between somewhere in Kansas to Hunta or Lamar, but they needed a local entity to be the local applicant on that. So our responsibilities are to basically do a solicitor proposal to hire a contractor. We did ask them, are we expected to do project manage on this? Because I can't send our crews out to Kansas. And they said no. So there'll be an independent project manager on that, but we will pay all the invoices and basically serve as the fiscal agent.
So we're just managing the money.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you.
There is, just while we're on that subject, there is another raise grant that we were asked to be the local applicant on, and I said no. Because these are big federal grants and we just don't have the capacities and staff to administer them. So this one is something that Colorado Springs has decided, and I think I've mentioned it to you all, to administer, but should we get the funding, it'd be $10 million to do a study for multimodal centers in Trinidad, Pueblo, and Colorado Springs. So that's going to be a great opportunity for us to have discussions on where we're at on multimodal. And that's also a raised grant, so I just want to point that out.
Audra, citywide HVAC maintenance? You probably know more about that than...
So last year, the city advertised to find someone to do citywide maintenance on our HVAC systems. The way it was handled previously, it was who we could get a hold of. There was a lot of hit and miss work being done. And so we contracted ACS to do the work. They come in 2 times per year, once in the spring, once in the fall. They go around to all of our city buildings, check filters, check operations of all of the system. Eventually we'll get to a point where we're saving money on our systems as opposed to making quick repairs and then someone's back, and quick repairs and someone's back. Our library is a prime example of that. The library now is able to have cooling in the summer, warmth in the winter, and not have to close, and they don't have to wear jackets in the winter, so it's been a huge improvement for us. It's a little bit pricey, but it has been an improvement, so.
Animal shelter too, they have.
Animal shelter was a big project, yes.
4-inch gas pipeline replacement in Mona Alley. That's a grant-funded project, and we've been running into a few snags. I thought we were gonna start that in June. I wanted to start it as soon as school was out. I thought everything was in place. We had a couple things to do, then it got pushed back to July. Now I found out some of the material I'm purchasing is not made in America, which is something the grant requires. It's a battle grant, Buy America, Build America. So today we're gonna send out a letter to try to waive that Buy America for some of my products. They're not manufactured in the United States. The products that are needed for this project. So I don't know how long that's gonna get pushed out. Hopefully, I sent out an email today asking if I could purchase some of the other products and see stuff like that, or are we just gonna lose the grant because of this? So don't quite know yet. Haven't got an answer to that. 3-inch gas main in Eagle Rock. That's not going to happen. The developer there has elected to go with electric and not go with gas in that entire development. So that one's getting pushed completely out. They're not going to be using any gas. I guess there's government incentives to get away from fossil fuels, from what I understand. So Eagle Rock is not going to happen for me. It will for Dave.
Not the team here.
Yeah. Take my revenue.
Wait till the power goes out, right?
Yeah, let's see what happens when the power goes out.
Really smart.
Yeah, you know. 4-inch gas main extension for the Maverick gas station. As far as I understand, that's underway. They've contacted Linda to get permits and stuff like that. So we're just kind of waiting for construction. I don't know when they're going to start doing construction, but that one looks like it's going. Gas main extension for Loves. That's still going to happen. It won't be a main extension though. We're just going to run a service line to the road. It's close enough to the road. Reconstruction of the Frost Street pressure reducing station. I have a completion for 2024. That won't happen this year because I've been waiting on the Nona Alley grant. I wanted to get that done, and I was thinking that would be done in June. I'd jump on this station in July. We waited. I can't rebuild that station during the winter months, the colder months. So still the grant's kind of holding me up on my scheduling. So hopefully I could get that one done next May or June on that one. Gas rate study, that's still an ongoing thing. When you guys approved it when I was here back in February, we have 10 cents going back on in November 1st. With that whole thing, I'm going to look back into it, see if that was still going to hold okay. We've been dropping the deferred gas slowly because we're in the summer months, so gas is not being used very much, but it's headed in the right direction. So hopefully the 10 cents will cover it. It looks like that, as of right now, we won't have to increase that more than the 10 cents. So.
Oh, Mayor, to answer your previous question, 30 lead and copper samples per year. 30 lead and copper samples that we take per year.
Oh.
Okay. The Hickenlooper grant, which was approved, we're still awaiting funding. This coming December will be 2 years that we were told we were awarded this, and it's a federal grant, and we're still awaiting access to the funds. The design's done, it's been complete. We're just, as soon as they give us access to the funding, we can put it out to bid. I'll go just real briefly what the 4 projects are. The Morris Canyon Water Loop Extension, we do not have a water main going up and down Morris Canyon Road from Peak Street to Santa Fe Trail. So that's what that's for, so we could get a secondary loop, because right now it's just at Santa Fe Trail. We get a water leak, we shut Tequila's, Wendy's, Santa Fe Trail Ranches, Walmart, everybody on that site goes out of town. So we get that secondary loop, that'll help assist on that, so. The other one is the University Street water line replacement underneath the railroad crossing right here by the Welcome Center. We have a 12-inch cast iron main that broke underneath those railroad tracks, I'm guessing some 10 years ago. And we still have not replaced that, and that's one of our 3 main loops. Connects south side, north side. We got Linden, we got Commercial Street, and then we got Animas, but it's not connected underneath University Street. That design's done, we just need to get it done, but special railroad permitting takes place on that, but we're also working on that too, so we're just waiting funding. Up in Segundo, this councilman, I believe, is quite aware of all those patches we have on the road. We have an old 2-inch galvanized water line right down the middle of the southbound lane on Highway 12. And we're constantly getting, in fact, we just had a leak on it, I think it was 4th of July weekend, on a Saturday, that the guys had to go up and fix it. So we want to run a new water line, get it out of the middle of the southbound lane and reconnect all those service lines on that also. The other one is up in West, in front of the Weston Supply. We still have a section of 15-inch steel pipe right along the old school there, the Weston School and the Weston Supply. The new transmission line went in place on the north side of Highway 12 and came into town. But they left that old section because that's where the majority of those water services are connected to. So we want to go and reconnect all those services to the new transmission line and get rid of that old 15-inch line. It's caused some issues for us in the past. So as soon as we get funding, we can get those poured out to bid and get those taken care of.
So, did we get that grant for boat training?
Oh, sorry, Mayor Council, this is the other one that came in on Friday, so we did get notice of our award for the grant for the rehabilitation of Church Street. So I think it's $1.6 million in change. We've already completed most of the design work, infrastructure improvement, utilities, and then restoring the road back to original Trinidad brick. So we're really excited for that.
No, the design work has not been done.
I'm sorry.
We have to go out, we have got to go out to design.
Apologize, yeah. Well, we've done the assessment.
Correct.
Sorry, is what I meant to say. So we know what we want, and now it just needs to be designed.
Right.
Bob's paying attention.
Yeah. Just trying to show up on his toes.
I wish it was done, but
yeah.
Really.
And then the Riverwalk installing lights, that's been done, it's been completed. And Eagle Rock, we've got power in that subdivision already, so. And then the CLP was hired by ARPA to do a modeling of our system and map out our circuits and all that, so they're done with that, so we just gotta get together with them and find out our weaknesses and stuff like that, so.
The next one, police department, landscape. After the First Street project, we put in the block walls on First and Maple. And there was talk in our development group that we wanted to do some type of natural landscaping in there, kind of waterless. So that way we don't see that dirt side hill, you know, so that's needs to be done, it has not been done, so. Some type of xeriscape, which would be low water use. Southside Park fence repair, that's kind of a Marty project. Public Works is we're gonna step in. It's on Field C. That's the softball field. They need to have 220 feet to dead center. I met with Marty and Steve Swazzle last week, and we're gonna bring in some fill. We have a bunch of material that's there, and the guys are gonna compact it and get it ready so they can basically restring a portion of the outfield fence there. So that's what that project entails.
That's it?
Yep.
Oh, no.
But one more page.
Our future projects in the queue.
Okay.
So we can maybe, with the interest of time, Council, if you all have any questions about any of those projects, we can discuss them. Otherwise, I think we really just wanted to highlight you on the ones that are definitely in the hopper currently. I did want, since we have everyone here for council members, to talk about Lights on Garfield. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I apologize, that project was before my time. but did want to talk a little bit about history on that. So council, before I got here, did authorize funding for that. We did purchase the lights, and so that is correct, they are there. But I'll let these guys help me. In looking at it, it's a much bigger project than just light installation, and that's been kind of the delay. I have had conversations with Mr. Bachicha and Paul Cordova about whether or not we can maybe even do some temporary solar installations to get some lighting up there. So we are looking into whatever we can do up there. But I think it has to do with trenching, expanding the road, adding gas, which is something that is on Steve's radar. But
if the street's gonna be repaired, widened or something like that, I'd like to get connectivity from that direction up into Allendale.
And I like to take the power lines underground too.
So, yeah, that's.
And as you know, it's dangerous to walk up, there's no sidewalk or curb and gutter on it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that walk that hill, and we want to add sidewalk, curb and gutter. It just gives us another, instead of covering up Santa Fe Trail, it gives us another route. So,
but no, I think some promises were made that we didn't fulfill, so I totally admit that, and we will continue to look at it and see whatever we can do.
Is there any way, since the street lights are there, is there anywhere else we can use them?
Yes, the good news about the street lights that we ordered is they are just standard arm lights that can be used for any project, so it's not money wasted. We can certainly deploy those elsewhere.
Because it sounds like it's going to be a while.
It could be.
Could be more than a while. So why can't we just put the lights up on the side of the hill?
So that's a question that, you know,
I don't see any issue with that.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, then let's move forward with that, please.
I mean, I don't want,
Yeah.
you know, you got
I know you're
another addition being built up there. You're gonna have a lot more traffic later on in the future and everything else. And you're probably looking at probably $6 to $7 million putting the gas line and widening the road and sidewalks.
Exactly.
So you're not gonna dig that kind of money up in any amount of time.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, I'm not really pushing it, but I thought
No,
that
I know. I
it
want
would
to
be a
get
really good idea to do it.
Yeah. So are you thinking solar lights then, or?
Well, I don't know what they bought. What did they buy?
you didn't buy solar.
No.
The lights you have on hand are
Yeah.
Cobra lights, right?
Yeah, Cobras.
How many
But when
of them
Dean
are
was there,
there?
he looked at it and he said some of the poles could be used. You didn't have to put a lot of poles that are there with the long arms out
Yeah.
and LED light. I think they're LEDs, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
kind of a waste not to use them. And then, like I say,
Yeah.
there's a lot of traffic. People
Yeah.
still walk up and down that hill,
Yeah.
and when it's no moonlight, it's dark out there, going up and down with the deer and everything. Be kind of nice to get it done.
Yeah. But it would kind of be nice to have like a major plan, you know, so we're not doing it twice. You know?
Well, I understand that.
It'd be nice to get some grading done in there, that way we don't have to move the poles when we actually jump into doing the widening, you know?
Isn't there something we can do without going through all these funding that you guys can do?
We had talked about doing a lot of the widening in-house.
We should be
One
able to
time.
get a grant to run a gas line up there, shouldn't we, Steve?
Now you're back to square one.
No, but I mean, well, what I'm saying is, are we looking into anything like that?
As far as I know, we haven't looked at any grant.
Because that's kind of an important line if you put it up there, right? Because
Yeah, we took that line out in 1990. There used to be a line going from
Yeah, right,
down there, I don't know if it's not Jefferson, Monroe, I think,
right.
all the way up to Espinosa Street. They removed that in 1990, that's when I first started there, it was part of the project. And then it was never replaced, I don't know why, what the problem was.
So we'll look into whatever we
Yeah,
can.
I'd like to get that up there.
But I think this is demonstrative of one of our ongoing problems that, as part of the strategic plan, I hope we can address in the near future, and that is prioritizing our capital improvements and coming up with a really robust capital improvements plan. So that way we know, okay, here's where we need to focus on for grant funding. This list is a great start, but it doesn't necessarily, for future projects, put a huge priority on everything, and that's where we really need the council's help. So after we get through strategic planning, that's something I've already talked with our consultant and Cheryl about. We want to put in some kind of program to prioritize our capital projects.
Okay. While you're here, we really need to do something about the building on Husman, the old Husman building there with the sidewalk closed. I mean, we keep talking about it. The other night I was driving by there, a car from Texas parked there next to the thing. They had all these little kids and almost got hit by a car. And then they have to walk around in the street. Winter's coming again. And I don't care who owns that building. We either have to tear that down or get that sidewalk fixed. That's ridiculous that people have to walk in the street.
You're talking about the Opera House.
Right.
And nobody in this room is going to disagree with you. So right now it's with Tura. There's been a request for a loan to fix the structure itself and make it safe, and then also the corner of the building. They actually made that request a couple months ago. It went through a Tura meeting. They're having a hard time finding someone who will administer the loan for them. But Tura is ready to give that loan to have everything you're talking about done. Their meeting, I believe, is this week or it's next week. It's soon.
What size is the loan, Steve?
So the actual loan is about $100,000, and that includes stabilizing the corner, and then also I've requested, to Councilmember Shu's point, we can't get rid of that weird sidewalk thing, but we certainly can make it look a lot more attractive, blend in better, and be able to provide safety. But they've also requested an additional $40,000 for ancillary costs such as permitting, architectural fees, that type of thing. So total 140.
Have they checked with Council of Governments for administering? I mean, I think that's pretty squarely in the wheelhouse.
That's a good question. I don't
probably out bandwidth.
I don't think they have.
Mr. Grego's been working on that, but that's a good suggestion. I'll follow up on that.
I know Mr. Grego.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could someone get a message to Mr. Grego?
I can ask him.
I'll text him.
Why is that sidewalk like that? Is it to protect people from things falling down?
Yes.
All right, and why is it closed?
It's closed because of the structural issues with the corner. If you go there, you can see almost in real time bricks that potentially could fall on someone's head. So we made the decision as a matter of public safety until that can be repaired to close the sidewalk. But this project, once we get it going, we'll fix all of that and we'll be able to have it reopened. From what I'm told, we had a woman that our police department's been dealing with feeding raccoons behind the Opera House, and now that's become kind of, the raccoon hotel. There's a belief that the raccoons are exacerbating the problem when they're going in and out of the crevices and knocking rocks off. So trust me, Council, we have these conversations a lot. We are equally as frustrated that the developer isn't moving forward on it.
Thank you.
I'm sending Mr. Grego a text. So maybe by the end of the session of the meeting, we can have an answer to that. Anything else on project updates?
So if you all think this is helpful, we'll do this from
Yes.
time to time, maybe quarterly, and so maybe not as exhaustive as today, but come before you and give you these updates so the public can hear them as well.
And one more question.
Yes.
What's going on with the river visioning? Where are we on that?
Oh, that's a really good question. So a couple huge milestones. Obviously, it's a major design, so we're still working with the architect group. Can't remember the percentage, but they're getting pretty far along on it. The two other moving points that we're working on right now is we've had recent conversations with the Catholic Church about acquiring the soccer field so that we can expand Chimino Park as part of that visioning. And then we have, through the architect group and the Trust for Public Lands, they're working on draft language for a $10 million revolving loan fund that we might consider. And the brilliance about it is it would be a 30-year loan for the $10 million. It'd be between 0 and 1% interest. And so we're crunching the numbers, but it would be a deal where we could get money, leverage that for GOCO grants as soon as next year. And hopefully, if it all worked out, be under construction by spring of next year.
Thank you.
And thank you for asking that. That's one that we definitely should have mentioned as part of this.
How about these guys? Huh?
Yeah, thank
you. The four horsemen is right. Here's the
The three musketeers plus one.
Well done.
Just next time we do a list, if you just highlight the completed projects so we know.
Sure. Yeah.
Something that designates it's a done deal.
Yeah, we will work on making this a a dynamic document where we're updating it and getting that out to you from time to time.
Are you still working on the Linden Railroad crossings?
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I was gonna,
Yeah, when we
because
met
we've been
with
talking
them,
about that for a long time.
when we met with them down here at college in Cedar, we drove out, and what they told us is it cost about $80,000 per track to bring in the new concrete, because right, as you know, we have the timber inlays in between the track. They would split the cost, $40,000 to BNSF, $40,000 to us, and basically, with your permission, that's the next project that I'd after. We got First Street wrapped up, I'd like to go forward with that.
Are they gonna replace take any of the tracks out, because they had talked about that, or are they gonna do all of them?
You know where the rubberized track, there's 2 rubberized crossings?
Yeah.
Those are coming out, so they call it a diagnostics. Railroad does everything, we just got a letter from them yesterday stating, or I guess it came in last Friday. They're gonna start construction, but I called his name's Rayford Nichols, he's the contact with them, and they don't expect it to be done until this fall. It seems like a fairly easy process. There's no tracks leading up to them, so take out the existing rubber crossing. Anyway, we're looking at a fall completion to have those 2 tracks taken out, but we still have 5 that are further to the, I guess you would call it north. And 2 of those are main lines, and there's 3 sidings on that. Those would all get concrete inlays. In the project, we don't have any type of conveyance for pedestrians, so we want to actually incorporate a sidewalk, at least on one side of the tracks. I'm thinking on probably the west side. And that way we'd be able to take pedestrians across the tracks as well.
And Mayor Council, real quick, I know you're tired of hearing from me, but I just wanted to point out a couple other projects to update you on that are not city projects, but partner projects. Exit 14, the reconfig at the last TPR meeting, we moved full steam ahead for them to begin design work on that, so that's in CDOT's hands. And then I wanted to give you a quick update. You probably noticed, and I'm not going to express my personal opinion, you guys can have your own, of the warming shelter that was installed at the Amtrak.
The circus tent?
Oh, a lot of you, thank you. A lot of people don't even know it's there. It's so inconspicuous and small. But part of that project, also, we were in conversations with the Amtrak last year. I believe we told you they want to close off access to the platform. We have some ADA improvements that we would like to see happen as part of that, and then reconfigure some of the walkways. I recently found out from Amtrak that they've put that project on an indefinite hold. So, so probably won't see anything else happening there anytime soon.
I just got a text from Ed. He didn't know council. So he said he's going to contact Brian.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Solving problems real time.
Love it.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Yeah.
Great job.
Item number 4 on the work session agenda is discussion regarding moving the council reports to work session.
Yep. So Mayor Council, this is your discussion. I mean, really, it's kind of your agenda, your platform. So I would say just open it up for any comments the council wants to have. This has come across my desk several times by multiple people in the last couple of years of maybe we want to have our councilor comments better served at a work session, but that's something you can discuss and look at.
Ron, go ahead.
I think either place they're appropriate. I would not be opposed to doing that. I think it's a good idea. I would like if there was some section remaining in the meeting, and I don't know how this would fit, but there's some section remaining in the meeting where it would be any comment of concern from council, and it would be expected to not be a report. Yeah, long, and I get I'm the person usually talking a lot. Thank you, everybody. Maybe we can keep it brief, but I think it'd be good to have a place for that still. That's my input.
It makes sense to have that push to a work session, considering it's not really a conversation for the, a back and forth with the general public, you know what I mean? It's more like a let everybody know what's going on kind of thing. It would be nice to have that in a work session versus Tuesday night. You know? So.
Mr. Trio?
Either one is for me. Sometimes the council meeting is a lot longer and it does draw it out a lot further. And I think maybe that might be the reason for it, because we're all going with our reports at that time, just trying it down. Work sessions sometimes are a little shorter. Today, sometimes. Yeah. You know, to where we can actually get that out there. I like the idea of the work session.
Are you making a comment or anything?
No.
I think work session, because it's a lot easier on the staff. They don't have to do all that information and stuff, and it makes it a lot easier for them. So I'm definitely for the work session.
Well, it's not really going to alleviate any time constraint either way, but the work session would be favorable for me. Sometimes the regular sessions get a little bit lengthy, like Manny stated. But yeah, that's a good point with the staff having to do a little bit more work. So yeah, work session might make sense.
You're shaking your head.
No, so I have a lot of thoughts about it. This is something that, one of the first things that when I was on council, we had this discussion and I was against it. I think that I want to think about what's the point of council reports. And I think part of it is accountability for all of us and what we've been doing with regard to the work that we do on council. And I think that's an important thing that we do. I don't know about how much work it is for staff to keep track of what we say, but it's nice to have a record. When I read back through the minutes to go, okay, that's what we were talking about then. We would have none of that with a work session. And most of the concern has to do with, we're tired at the end of the meeting and nobody's there listening. Why don't we do it at the beginning? Why don't we just move it to the beginning and during policy reports and just say briefly, here's what's going on. Then we still have the public accountability. It's still some kind of a record. It provides for your interest in having a place on the agenda to express some concern. That's what I'm thinking.
You know, I agree with you because by the time, especially when our meetings are running 3 hours, by the time we give our council reports, 4 of the people that are in the audience are here. And it's staff, and they know what we're doing. So it seems the way we're doing it now is disjointed. It doesn't fit in, and nobody is here to listen to us, not unless they watch the recordings on YouTube. So that would be an option as well, but the operative word here is brief. It has to be brief.
Condensed.
Any other comments about it? Maybe when staff reports, right after staff reports, we could do council reports. I watched the Raton City Council meeting one night, and they do their city council reports at the beginning of the meeting. Not that I'm real gung-ho about emulating Raton, but you know, I think it's a good idea.
And Mayor Council, just to be clear, staff will do whatever you want us to.
I understand, and the reason it was brought to our attention originally was when Mayor Rico was here, and it's easier because Kim does the minutes and they're very lengthy, and we just thought, you know, we could maybe streamline it a tad, but I think if we put maybe a time limitation on our council reports like we do public comment. Yeah. 3
Or realistically, for that matter, I think it'd be a reasonable request for us to provide Kim with notes on what we've said ourselves. I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I would hate for us to lose also the opportunity to announce things that the groups that we're working with are doing. And then that's at the beginning of the meeting, so it's heard by
everybody can hear.
Yeah, and more frequently than I would expect. I mean, some really pertinent, interesting, and useful information comes out of it. Not from things I usually say, but
Not like what?
not things I say usually.
Well, that's true.
Council of Middle Tree and yourself.
That's true. I agree with you on that one.
I like the beginning, I said work session, but I didn't know I had an option to do that, to beginning at a meeting. But
So what kind of hassle would it be? Is it by ordinance we have to change the order of the agenda?
Mayor, I was just looking to see if.
Yes,
Is our
I think so.
order-
Yeah, I
By
think-
ordinance,
yeah.
and it's not a hassle.
Yeah.
Section 215.
Staff, I'd like to hear your input.
Okay.
I really want to hear your input too.
I like it better at the beginning, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I would agree that it serves a purpose. It's not just, you're not wasting anyone's time with your reports. It's good information. So I like it at the beginning.
Okay. Donna, do you think so?
I feel the same way. Usually by the time you guys get to them, it's just us sitting here and we're like, we really don't need to hear this.
You're sleep deprived, your sugar levels are down.
Yeah, we're getting angry. No, hangry I should say, but yeah, no, the beginning would be much better.
One observation I have, if it's at the beginning, I think it will enforce better discipline on our part anyway, because when you have a larger audience.
We behave better?
Well, yeah.
I can time you like I do people. If it
Yes.
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. Yeah,
Well, I think this all started because one of the prior people on city council, who I won't mention names, did actually a social calendar of every place that they were representing the city, and it was very detailed. That's what.
Very detailed.
Very detailed, and I think that's what prompted all this. So, that coupled with the fact that nobody hears us at the end,
Right.
So.
And Mayor Council, just from my perspective, I like this too. Oftentimes, people show up because of issues in our community, and if we do it after policy updates and before public comment, maybe some of the concerns will be mitigated by what you tell them ahead of time.
That's really.
That's why I said maybe.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Then we're finished with our work session. Let's take 10 minutes recess and then we'll reconvene with the special meeting.
And so you know, you guys are just going to meet with Steve. I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hate to dip out on y'all.
There you go.
Just gonna go
Yeah,
down.
Okay, and I want to state for the record, your city attorney just broke decorum. He clapped for all those department heads.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, right. That's true, right?
That's
Yeah. They haven't been adopted yet.
Right.
Audra, why did you have to say?
Sorry. I was like, oh.
I did.
Well, we haven't adopted those rules yet, so.
Audience members can.
Oh.
Yeah.
City attorney can.